Ihr seid alle ganz herzlich begrüßt von mir, Barbara Kübel, zum 236. Jour fix mit dem Thema Meuterei lohnt sich. Franziska und ich werden euch durch den Abend führen und wir begrüßen ganz herzlich unseren Gast, der weit gereist ist, um im Norden der Bundesrepublik über das Thema Meuterei lohnt sich zu referieren. Aus Belgien begrüßen wir auch Erik Dirks, der Peter begleitet. Und wir hoffen und wollen hören, welche Auswege aus der fundamentalen Krise, die die Welt im Moment in den Abgrund zu reißen droht, wir hier vielleicht in der Diskussion aufgezeigt bekommen. Der zeitliche Rahmen ist sollte grob 2 Stunden, also wir hatten so 20:30 Uhr als Ende uns vorgeschlagen und wollen anfangen mit einigen organisatorischen Bemerkungen. Also erstmal ist diese Veranstaltung initiiert worden vom Jour fix Gewerkschaftslinke Hamburg, aber wäre nicht möglich gewesen ohne die Unterstützung der Anti-Austeritätsgruppe, die hier über Franziska vertreten ist, dass wir diesen schönen Hörsaal zur Verfügung haben, dass wir hier die ganze technische Ausstattung haben. All das haben wir den Studenten von der Universität zu verdanken und dafür bedanken wir uns ganz herzlich. Peter kann Deutsch verstehen, aber möchte nicht in Deutsch referieren. Deswegen sind wir in der außerordentlich glücklichen Lage, Lars Stubbe als Simultanübersetzer uns an Land gezogen haben. Also ganz herzlichen Dank dafür, denn das erleichtert doch unglaublich die Durchführung der Veranstaltung. Nur ganz kurz die übrigen Unterstützerinnen und Unterstützung. Masch, die junge Welt, da ist heute auch ein Interview geführt worden. Da ist Martin Dolzer, unser Kontaktmann, also auch ihm herzlichen Dank. Der für das linke Wahlbündnis die Wahl auch hier die vertritt, dann der Seniorenaufstand. Also es ist eine Mischung von Jung und Alt, die hier zusammenkommen und die uns brennenden Fragen, gesellschaftlichen Fragen der Zeit beantworten. Wir haben einen Büchertisch, da könnt ihr das Buch, das in Belgien ein Bestseller ist und das außerordentlich empfehlenswert zu lesen ist, das könnt ihr hier käuflich erwerben. Ich möchte als erstes zur Geschichte dieser Veranstaltung und zu den für uns interessanten Fragen Dieter Wegner das Wort erteilen für den Jour fix und dann kommt Franziska für die Anti-Austeritätsgruppe. Richtig ausgesprochen, sorry.
Also hätte ich nie gedacht und erträumt, dass ich in meiner alten HWP, 19. Jahrgang von 66 bis 1969, noch mal vorne am Pult stehen würde. Also ich bin, man erlebt noch im hohen Alter Überraschungen. Okay. Ja, wir haben vor über einem Jahr Kontakt aufgenommen vom JFX und nachdem wir gelesen hatten von den Wahlerfolgen von eurer Partei, vom PTB, und das ist uns gelungen und ich hatte dann erreicht den Rudi Kennis, und dann war er aber in der Vorbereitung zum Europawahlkampf und dann ist er auch ins Europaparlament gekommen und das ist dann gescheitert, dass er im vergangenen Jahr schon zu uns zum JFX kommen konnte. Aber wir waren dann hartnäckig und 3 Genossen haben dann in Berlin bei der Rosa-Luxemburg-Konferenz haben dann Peter angesprochen, zum JFX zu kommen, hier nach Hamburg zu kommen, und er hat zugesagt. Und also endlich hat er das dann geklappt. Das war im Januar und jetzt findet es statt. Und das ist prima. Und es ging bei den Kontakten mit Rudi und dann auch mit Peter, ging es immer darum, dass er herkommt und darstellt seine, Anführungsstriche, seine Partei, ihre Praxis. Warum und wie die PTB als einzige Partei in Europa zu einer kommunistischen Massenpartei geworden ist. Und der Hintergrund von uns Älteren ist ja, dass wir um 1970 in Westdeutschland die Gründung von etlichen kommunistischen Parteien und Organisationen erlebt haben, oft auch da drin waren. Und einige Jahre später haben wir dann miterlebt ihre Auflösung oder ihre Reduzierung um 90 oder 95%. Und wir mussten die Angriffe auf die Arbeiterklasse im neoliberalen Kapitalismus miterleben mit unserer Ohnmacht bei der Gegenwehr, wo doch die politische und soziale Lage Widerstand und Gegenwehr dringend erfordert hätte. Die Alten, die jetzt noch aktiv sind, haben die letzten 50 Jahre mit einem schweren Rucksack der Niederlage und des Versagens erlebt. Also einige sind wohl auch depressiv geworden. Viele haben die Seiten gewechselt. Wisst ihr alle, die Leute, die Seiten gewechselt haben. Aber etliche sind auch dabei geblieben, die ganze Zeit. Und es war jetzt ein großer Lichtblick für uns, zu erfahren, dass es mit euch in Belgien eine Ausnahme gab, weil es euch vor einigen Jahren gelungen ist, eure kleine, maoistische, ganz kleine Gruppe oder Partei in eine gesellschaftlich wirksame kommunistische Massenpartei zu verwandeln. Diese Tatsache faszinierte uns und fasziniert uns immer noch. Und wir sind immer noch neugierig darauf, was da geschehen ist im Einzelnen. Und es gibt jetzt den Spruch aus den Bauernkriegen, ich glaube, ihr kennt ihn alle, die sich jetzt ja gerade zum 500. Mal jähren: Geschlagen ziehen wir nach Haus, unsere Enkel richten es besser aus. Wenn unsere Enkel hier in Deutschland vor der Aufgabe stehen, es besser auszurichten, dann müssen sie, wie wir selber auch, von unseren eigenen Fehlern, die wir seit den 70er Jahren gemacht haben, aus diesen Fehlern lernen. Aber wir alle, Jungen und die Alten, wir haben das große Glück, von euch, von eurer erfolgreichen Transformation in eine relevante gesellschaftliche Kraft lernen zu können. Und diese Gelegenheit, die wollen wir heute nutzen und vielleicht in Zukunft auch, indem wir uns immer weiter informieren, was bei euch in Belgien geschieht, wie ihr überall einmischt. Und gerade die junge Generation braucht für die zukünftigen Kämpfe das Wissen über die Grundlagen, die Praxis und die Methoden von Partei- und Organisationsarbeit auf der Straße, in Betrieben, in den Gewerkschaften, bei Streiks und bei den Wahlen. Und da seid ihr überall voll dabei. Die heutige Jugend ist nur kampffähig, wenn sie aus ihrer Blase rauskommt, aus der Begrenzung auf Peergroups hin zu Bündnissen, die offen sind für Zusammenarbeit. Auch, dass die Spaltung zwischen den Generationen aufgehoben wird. Das haben wir vom JFX seit über 20 Jahren erfahren, dass da eine ziemliche Spaltung passiert. Eine Zusammenarbeit partiell, aber im Prinzip ist es eine Spaltung. Jeder bleibt für sich. Ist ein anderes Thema, kann man nicht hier ausbreiten. Ich komme auch gleich zum Schluss. Wir vom JFX Gewerkschaftslinke unterstützen seit über 20 Jahren Betriebsbesetzungen, die Streiks und Betriebsbesetzungen und Streiks und auch Bewegung auf der Straße. Und wir konnten in dieser Zeit viele Kontakte mit den Aktiven, denen wir begegnet sind, halten. Viele sind abgebrochen nach ein paar Jahren, aber wir konnten viele Kontakte halten. Wir beteiligten uns an den linken Demos gegen die Corona-Maßnahmen, bis diese verboten wurden. An ihnen nahmen zuletzt 30.000 Menschen teil. Wir sind gegen die Waffenlieferung in die Ukraine. Wir lehnen die Staatsräson zu Israel ab. Das sind so einige Punkte bei uns, die sich in der letzten Zeit herausgeschält haben. Und wir arbeiten in einem Bündnis mit, die in diesen 3 Punkten d'accord sind mit uns. Unsere Frage ist, welchen Standpunkt hat die Partei DP zu diesen 3 Punkten als Frage jetzt, wo du vielleicht darauf eingehen könntest? Ein Genosse aus unserem Umkreis hat vor einigen Jahren ein Büchlein verfasst, Betriebsbesetzung als wirksame Waffe im gewerkschaftlichen Kampf, eine Studie aktueller Beispiele. Und dieses Buch versuchen wir verstärkt zu vertreiben, besonders an Kolleginnen aus Firmen, die von Schließen bedroht sind. Ihr wisst, dass in der Metallindustrie passiert, aber nicht nur dort. Tausende Firmen wurden in Deutschland geschlossen und die Kollegen suchen nach Auswegen. Und da ist, denke ich, Streik und Betriebsbesetzung wäre der angemessene Ausweg. Deswegen versuchen wir, dieses Buch dazu vertreiben und damit gewissen Einfluss zu bekommen für das Denken, das dahinter steht. Er hatte hier wirklich gute Beispiele damals geschrieben, aus Italien auch und aus der Schweiz. Und eine weitere Aufgabe unseres kleinen Kreises sehen wir darin, dass sich die Vernetzung der letzten Jahre eine Gewerkschaftsopposition formiert, zu der wir beitragen wollen. Und ich glaube, ich spreche im Namen aller Kollegen, Genossen aus unserer Planungsgruppe für Fix, wenn ich sage, wenn wir nicht in Hamburg wären, sondern in Belgien, dann würden wir wahrscheinlich bei euch mitmachen. Ich mache sonst selten Komplimente, selbst meiner Freundin nicht, aber das muss es sein.
Ja, auch von mir ein herzliches Willkommen, auch herzliches Willkommen an Peter. Wir freuen uns auf die heutige Diskussion. Barbara hat es schon gesagt, ich bin Franziska von der Kampagne International Solidarisch Schluss mit Austerität. Wir haben diese Kampagne 2018 gegründet, um alle mal Schluss zu machen mit den neoliberalen Einreden von Eigenverantwortung und Egoismus vom Ende der Geschichte und die Schuldenbremse konkret auch in Deutschland zu streichen, zu lösen und damit auch eine neue Ära der solidarischen Gestaltung unserer Gesellschaft einzuläuten. Wir kommen ja in hochdynamischen und hoch zugespitzten Zeiten zusammen. Die Welt ist in einem fundamentalen Umbruch begriffen und genau deswegen finden wir das so wichtig und freuen uns, dass wir heute mit Peter Mertens aus Belgien, aber auch mit euch allen diskutieren können, wie wir diese tiefgreifende Krise des neoliberalen Kapitalismus auch dialektisch verstehen können und worauf wir unsere Zuversicht bauen können, dafür, dass wir in gemeinsamer Aktivität, in Organisierung, in Arbeitskampf und auch in den Universitäten dafür beitragen, eine soziale und eine zivile Zeitenwende hervorzubringen. Wir haben die Veranstaltung unter das Motto gestellt, Meuterei lohnt sich. Es geht also darum, dass die vielen, die tagtäglich mit Arbeit und Engagement diese Gesellschaft überhaupt am Laufen halten und weiterentwickeln, auch das Steuerrad dieser Gesellschaft übernehmen. Denn es ist ja die alte Weltordnung, die gerade über Profit und Ausbeutung, über Gewalt und Krieg zu zerbrechen beginnt. Und das nicht vor allem kein Grund zur Traurigkeit ist, sondern vor allem auch zur Erkenntnis beiträgt, dass das nicht unsere Krise ist und es vielmehr das neue Selbstbewusstsein im globalen Süden und auch die wachsende Kooperation zwischen den BRICS-Staaten ist, die diese alte Weltordnung herausfordert, genauso auch wie die sich zuspitzenden und entwickelnden Kämpfe für soziale und zivile Progression in den kernimperialistischen Zentren selbst. Wir haben es dagegen zu tun mit einer zugespitzten Militarisierung und Kriegsführung, auch einer verschärften Konkurrenz in den globalen und auch in den innerländischen Beziehungen, durch die die Herrschenden versuchen, den Status quo zu verteidigen. Und damit ist das, denke ich, auch ein Ausdruck die Aggressivität von Hegemonieverlust, Aber was wir daraus machen, auch gerade als fortschrittliche Kräfte in der Bundesrepublik Deutschland, aber auch mit den Genossen und Genossinnen in Belgien, das wollen wir diskutieren, weil ich denke, dass auch deutlich wird mit den Auseinandersetzungen um Europa oder die EU, dass es auf einen sozial-transformatorischen Richtungswechsel ankommt, vor dem wir auch heute vielleicht streiten und gemeinsam klüger werden müssen. Ich denke, dass auch in diesen ganzen Zuspitzungen deutlich wird, dass ein grundlegender sozialer Umschwung ansteht, auf der Tagesordnung steht, hier gesellschaftlich, weltweit. Und dafür braucht es jedoch eines kämpferischen und solidarisch assoziierten Subjekts, wo wir als jeder Einzelne, aber eben auch kollektiv gefordert sind. Mit unserem Motto Meuterei lohnt sich erinnern wir auch daran, dass es die Meuterei der Matrosen in Kiel und Hamburg 1918 war, die den Anfang des Endes des Ersten Weltkriegs eingeläutet haben und die den Auftakt gebildet haben zur Novemberrevolution in Deutschland mit ihren doch sehr weitreichenden sozialen, zivilen und auch demokratischen Fortschritten. Und da Peter Mertens mit den Einsichten und auch Ansichten zu den historischen und aktuellen Quellen für den Kampf der Arbeiterklasse um ihre Verfügung, um ihre soziale Gestaltung des menschenwürdigen Lebens, die er in seinem Buch Meuterei darlegt, auch alltäglich politisch aktiv und unterwegs ist, freuen wir uns besondererweise, das heute mit ihm diskutieren zu können, gemeinsam klüger und engagierter zu werden. Und ich ende mit Bertolt Brecht, wie wir auch das Flugblatt geendet haben, aus Lob der Dialektik aus 1934. Wer seine Lage erkannt hat, wie soll der aufzuhalten sein? Und in dem Sinne übergebe ich an dich, Peter.
Okay, danke. Danke für die Einladung und danke für die Organisation. Ich könnte Deutsch verstehen, aber ich könnte das gar nicht gut sprechen. So, Entschuldigung, ich sollte in Englisch sprechen. Das war all Deutsch, ich kannte. Okay. So, thank you everyone. They asked me to be 40 minutes and then we have questions. I love the questions afterwards, but 40 minutes to speak about, on the one hand, how do you understand the actual situation, and on the other hand, what's happening with the Workers' Party of Belgium, and what is your model of party building in Belgium. There's two different subjects. They are, of course, related, because the more clarity you can have on the political situation, the better you can orientate also the work of the party. That's clear. First of all, yesterday I was in Kiel, and I was all of a sudden on a place called Platz der Kieler Matrosen, where the mutiny of Germany started. My book is not about the mutiny of Germany and not of the mutiny in the classical term of this word. Nevertheless, there is a lot of stories about the historical role of mutiny in the world trade, but I won't go there now in this exposition. Mutiny, here as a title, comes from an American responsible for the National Security Council in the United States, Fiona Hill. And she said after the war in Ukraine, after this phase of the war in Ukraine, I had to say after 2020, there were two votes in the United Nations Assembly. There was a vote to condemn Russia to breach the territorial sovereignty of Ukraine. Most of the countries worldwide supported the condemnation of Russia. But the second vote was, shall we install sanctions against Russia? And then in the United Nations, the majority of the countries voted against sanctions of Russia. And this vote was discussed in the National Security Council in the USA, and then Fiona Hill said, we have a situation of mutiny. So I would like to thank Fiona Hill for giving me the title of the book, because I said, okay, if that is mutiny, to not follow anymore the orientation of Washington and the Pentagon, maybe we must embrace this kind of mutiny. Maybe we must love this kind of mutiny. And I do think that's one of the main points of the book. The world is changing, and from a European point of view, and maybe from an Atlantic point of view, there is a lot of people not understanding how much our world is tilting, is changing. And maybe from a European point of view, Europe that became great after 500 years of colonization and neocolonialism, maybe we have to also take off our glasses and try to understand the changing of the world from a perspective from the global south. That's one point of the book, because what is happening is that this dominance, the transatlantic dominance for 500 years, this era is coming to an end. We can be happy about it, not happy. You can have all emotions about that. Doesn't matter. It doesn't change a thing. It is coming to an end. And the rise of China and the rise of India and the rise of the economic weight of Asia will determine the 21st century. That is the big change. It is not Europe anymore. It is not the US anymore. The US, in its short period of imperialistic power after World War II, has never had a challenger like China today. Never. The Soviet Union, at one point, did challenge USA. But what China is doing today, that's another level of challenge for the United States on the economic level and on the technological level. And so the reaction of US from Obama in his pivot to Asia, his turn to Asia, then Trump 1, then Biden, and now Trump 2, you cannot understand the American politics if you don't see the rise of China. You cannot understand it. That's the thesis of the book. That is a reaction in the rise of China, all the politics of the US. The tariff war today, the claims on Greenland, the claims on the Panama Canal, the claims to control the resources of the world, the critical minerals, etc. It's all related to this new Cold War that the US tries to impose to the world, to China. And then China is clever. We can discuss on China, it's another chapter. But China is clever. It built, among others, the BRICS coalition in 2009 with Brazil, Russia, India, South Africa. Then the BRICS enlarged, and the situation today on the GDP point of view, it's not the only point of view, but an important point of view, is for the first time in history, the BRICS countries now have more GDP output than the traditional G7, the Atlantic countries. 20 years ago, it was 80% of production worldwide came from European and Atlantic countries. 80%. Now it's the minority position. The world is changing. And the reaction of the US is towards that. And Europe, imperialist Europe, is the big loser in all this cold game and tries to militarize now the whole society, tries to destroy the whole social security system to militarize the society, but it is on the orders of Washington. It is on the orders of Washington to militarize Europe in the cadre of NATO. It is not in the order of working class in Europe. It is not in the order to have a new place for Europe towards the next century. And so, yes, we are in a turmoil, and yes, things are changing, and yes, a lot of people are asking a lot of questions. There's a lot of certainties that are disappearing. Because we are on the beginning of this phase, like in our country, they now want, there will be a NATO summit of Den Haag in June, a very important NATO summit. There, Trump has said it has to be 3.5% of GDP spending on military. In our country, now we came from 3.5 billion a year to the military, then we raised it to 12 million a year. We destroyed already pension systems, and now NATO asking that Belgium is spending each year 22 billion to NATO. And they will take the money in the pension system. They will take the money in the public services system. They will destroy a lot. That's their plan on a European level, and they're very openly about it. Mark Rutte, the former minister-president of Holland, he left Holland in a disaster, and then he gets the gift to be the chief of NATO and the help of Trump. He came to the European Parliament and he said, we have to take the money from the social security. He was you can find it in YouTube, he was not hiding. So the future of social security, the future of democratic rights of public services that was won by a class struggle of working people during 1 century is under attack by this NATO thing. And Europe will be a loser. And a lot of people will see changes, I think, in the next 5, 10, 15, and 20 years. So that's very short, the situation, very, very short. The main thing I think about this situation we can discuss, but what to do with this situation, and what has a left party a left party has to react to the situation. I think the first thing is, okay, we have to discuss our analysis, what's happening. It is important to have an agreement about what is happening and to see the global situation. But then I do think you can have a reaction in 2 ways. In Belgium and in France and in other countries, there is some organized depression that is being told by many left parties and left-wing trade unions. And they see things changing, and I can sociologically understand the fear of all what is coming, the fear of the war, the fear of the militarization, the fear of the lack of democracy, etc., the fear of what's happening now with the Palestine protesters, etc., being arrested. I can understand on an individual level that. But I do think that a left party and a Marxist party, when it mobilizes people, when it brings together people, it does not have the task to talk people more into depression. I have attended so many meetings about fascism, about militarization, and if you were not depressed entering the meeting, you were surely depressed leaving the meeting. And then I think, okay, that cannot be the goal. That cannot. We are an emancipatory movement. We have to emancipate. We don't have to be naive. We are in front of very turbulent times. We are in front of militarization, of lack of democracy. We don't have to lie. We have to be honest. But our task is not to describe all the fascist forces, all the imperialist forces, because then we are playing their game. Their game since the beginning is make people feel little and make themselves feel great. That is their game since the beginning, and we don't have to repeat that game. We have to try to make the working class great again, to make people proud again, to make people proud again of being the class that produces all the wealth. And it is possible. It is a very difficult task. I'm not naive, but it is possible. There is a room, there is a space, especially now, for people that try to understand what's happening. People who are sleeping for a long time, now asking questions. What is happening? What is happening in Palestine? What is happening with China? What is happening with the war? Why do we need 105 extra Leopard tanks, etc.? There is a lot of people asking questions honestly, to try to understand what is happening in their community, in their workplace, in society. There is a hunger, I do think, in midst of the crisis times, there is a hunger to understand. And I do think we have to be prepared for this phase to give answers to people, to listen to people, to their fears, but also to give answers, because now there is a room for people to try to listen. I do agree with Lenin that says, okay, people can sleep a long time, but in times of turmoil and crisis, there is a possibility, it's not sure, but there is a possibility that people learn very much faster in short time, and that the leaders of the people also can learn a lot of time. And I do think we must, in Europe, prepare ourselves for 5, 10, 15, 20 years of deep crisis, And our main task is to prepare this phase with building organization that can reinstall hope, reinstall class consciousness, reinstall an understanding. I can understand, for example, in Belgium, in trade unionism, there is also nostalgia. And I can understand it really. I can understand if you come from the 60s and the 70s with this balance of forces, which was much better than today, and you have seen destruction after destruction, the annihilation of cadre schools in trade unions, the annihilation of political... I can understand it's not nice. But the answer is not nostalgia. That is not... We have to reconstruct. And there is a possibility to reconstruct. Like when the working class movement in the 19th century had to build the first social democratic parties and then the communist parties, the conditions were not good neither. They had to construct from scratch. And maybe we have to think, okay, we in some way, we have to reconstruct also from scratch. And we can learn the lessons and we can take the lessons from the past to the future, but we must not educate people in nostalgia. We are the forces that look forward to another society, to a just society, a socialist society. And I do really think that trying to give, this is difficult, I know, but trying to give this kind of perspective, that is what we need in times of crisis. Naomi Klein, she is not a Marxist, but when she said in her Shock Doctrine book that in the crisis, the forces that are best prepared for that crisis, they have a length of advance on the other forces. And we know it's going to be worse in the next 5, 10, 15, 20. It will be like that. It will be like that. That will be the situation. But we can prepare ourselves to this next 5, 10, 15 years. And that means also, in my opinion, we have to think on 5, 10, 15 years in the reconstruction process. We don't have to think in the electoral process only. It will kill us. It will kill us because it is too short time. We cannot only prepare ourselves for the next election and then the next election. It's a killing machine. It is important. I will talk about the election. It is important. But think about reconstructing only in an electoral phase process will kill us, in my opinion. We have to reconstruct cadre schools in trade unions, build left-wing wings of trade unions, etc. But it is a work of 5 or 10 years of the reconstruct, and we have to have the vision of to do that, because otherwise I do think we will go from defeat to defeat, and maybe a small victory, and then a defeat again. No, our project. When we talk also, we don't have to be naive, but I really am convinced that we have to talk from the force of our conviction. Our ideals of a socialist society where the working class rules, where the producing class rules, is a just society. Our ideals are correct, and I think talking from the force of the conviction is important, because people can sense if you really mean it. They know if you're right, if you're honest, if you want to go forward in that goal or not. In my opinion, so no, we don't have to be afraid of the dust of the cows. In every crisis, there is dust. There is dust in the working class. There is dust among the youth. There is all kinds of ideas in all directions. It is like that. We don't have to be afraid of the anger of the working class. And I know the working class everywhere in Europe expressing themselves, maybe their anger, their fear, their rage, not in the correct way. It is like that. And then we can be like a schoolmaster, you must not do this and you must not do that. Or we can, first of all, try to understand the rage and the anger of the working class. Let's try to understand why the working class is in rage and why they organize like they do today. But what I want to say dialectically is we also have to see the positive points of this crisis and take the rage of the working class and try to build something from that perspective. I'm not naive. We are not going to defeat the fascist tendencies in the next 5 years. It will take long, but we have a possibility to rebuild our party. So that's a starting point of our analysis. It's more general, it's more ideologically. I do think you have to build a party on political clear lines, but also on a communication and on a self-confidence of our goal, not arrogance. We have to try. We have to be humble. We have to listen, not arrogance, but yes, self-confident. No one wants to join losers. No one, and the people are right not to want to join losers. You have to reunite a little bit the spirit that you want to struggle, and if you struggle, you can lose and you can win. But this Kampfgeist, this struggle thing, you have to reunite that. So that's the first thing. That's not sufficient, and that's not all. I do know. I will answer some questions about our party. That's the second thing I wanted to tell you. So we were a small party. We came out the student movements of 68, and then the wildcat strikes at the beginning of the 70s, the merge of the student movement and the wildcat strikes. But we had some good things from this period, like serve the people, the ideal of serve the people, like we have hospitals, free hospitals in working class areas where we have them still now, where we have free medicine. There's an initiative of the Workers' Party of Belgium. So in certain working class areas, we were popular since a long time for serving the people with free medicine and emancipatory health care. We have initiatives like when there was a floods, 2-3 years ago, it was also in Germany, the floods. We organized solidarity teams to help people to clean the houses, etc. And we mobilized at that time 3,000 people from the north of Belgium to the south of Belgium to clean the houses. Very practical things, organizing. So this spirit is since the beginning in our party. But at the same time, we were dogmatic and sectarian. And I mean really dogmatic and really sectarian. And we hit a wall. We hit a wall, and we had a big party crisis at the beginning of this century. And then we started a renewal process in the party. And we said, okay, we have to leave this dogmatic sectarian approach. We have to leave all this mentality that we know better. And we have to leave also the position of the truth, the Wahrheit, the Pravda. We know the truth, and one day people will see the truth. We say, okay, it's important to be right. It's important to have a correct political line, but you have to gain also that political line in the working class. That's not the same thing. It is not the same thing to have a correct analysis and to get people behind that correct analysis is a job on itself. You have to win for your ideas, and that is a job on itself. And that was the starting point of the renewal movement. And we knew when we corrected our course, the ship, from this sectarian dogmatic thing, if we were not intelligent, we immediately could go to a social democratic party. We have seen a lot of parties doing that, correcting themselves and then becoming more acceptable in government, etc. And we knew it from the beginning. We will correct the course of our ship, but if we do it too fast, we will hit the social democratic zone, and then, yeah, okay, then you're lost. So how to correct? And that's why we had 3 pillars of our party renewal, which in our tradition, our case was important. Every situation is different. Your situation in Germany is very different than our situation in Belgium. I can only tell you about our situation, not about your situation. But the first pillar was, we said, okay, we need to continue to be a communist party for socialism. We need to be a principled party, we said. That's the first pillar. We're not going to leave that. And so we need to have unity in the cadre team of the party. We need to have clarity in the cadre team of the party, 800 at 1,000 people cadre, and that they have to be communists and they have to stay communists. So that was first thing. Second thing, we need to be a flexible party. It is not enough to be a principled party, that's the backbone of our structure, but we need also have discussion on tactics. Before there was this discussion and they say, okay, but tactics, that is not important, that is not a part of Marxism, that is not a part of the reconstruction. You say, no, we don't agree with that approach. We need to have tactics as a part of our, in a dialectical relation with strategy. We have our goal, but we have to determine how to reach our goal. And the way forward to that goal is not a line. It's not Sendero Luminoso. It's not a right line towards that goal. It will be zigzag. And we will try some things, we will try, and we will be open, and we will work together. We will have trade union tactics everywhere, and we will learn also from other organizations. It was a pillar on itself, flexible. And third thing is to become a working class party, really working class, not a working a party for the working class, but a party where there's also cadres from the working class in our party. So we did these three pillars: principled party, a flexible party, and working class party were the three pillars of our renewal movement. And since we did that, we advanced, like we used also on that basis also all these tactics of communication, because also communication is an art. And we said if we communicate, people have to understand. We have to speak a language that people can understand. We have to continue to be Marxist, but we don't have to have one bucket of Marxist-Leninist jargon in every leaflet that we distribute to the factories. Now, let's speak in plain, clear language that everyone can understand. Let's use also social media. Let's use TikTok. We do use TikToks. We do use 2-minute videos on Palestine, on public transport, on now the pension system. Some people said, okay, but that is populistic, you don't have to do it. We say, no, we will use that for our advance. And so we have also a communication strategy on that level. And since then, we came in parliament, and in the parliament the discussion was, for our party, what's the place of the parliamentary group in our party? It was new for us. In 2014, first time ever we get in parliament. At that time with 2 persons. Now we have 15 people in federal parliament. In Belgium we have 6 parliaments. I'm not going to explain, it's too surrealistic, but the federal parliament, we have 10% now of the votes, we have 15 people, but at that time 2 people. And we said, first of all, the political line of our party is not being organized and determined by the parliamentary group. The political line of our party is determined by the elected bodies of our party. It is very important for us. It is the elected bodies of our party. And second thing was important for us. The parliament is just one megaphone of class struggle. It is not the alpha and the omega. We are not going to organize everything of our party around that. Meaning, the best cadres of the party, they don't have to be all members of parliament. It is not like the best cadres of the party have to construct the party in the cities, in the companies, in the factories. A lot of discussion, and the people working for us in the parliament cannot be full-timers in the parliament. Because if you are full-time in the parliament, you will sink, you will disappear. They have to be half-time on construction. It's not legal at all that you don't have to film, but we do it. It's important for the ideological. And so we use the parliamentary megaphone to strengthen the class struggle in a broad sense, and not only the pension struggle, also the peace struggle, the Palestine question. And if we talk in the parliament, we don't talk to the other people. It's very weird, it's contra-intuitive. We don't talk to the other parliament, we just talk for the video. And they hate it, they hate it. We just talk, because our message is not to convince all the other parliamentary groups, our message is to convince people. as an opposition party that we are. And so they call us populist, anti-establishment, etc. But we say, okay, if we are not clear in our message, if we have not that anti-establishment layer in our, we are not a populist party, we are a communist party, it's not the same, but we use anti-establishment language also, because if we don't use it, the fascists will use it. Why would we leave this kind of talk to the false opposition, or to the party of the capital? And so we are harsh against capital also in the parliament. And that, on that way we came more popular on the election way, and the fact that's true, since we were in the parliament, we have a higher visibility. It is very difficult in this kind of system of parliamentarism to have faces of the party, porte-parole, so public speakers of the party that are known by everyone if you're outside the parliament. It's very difficult. But it's only one aspect of our struggle. The main thing we try to do is to try to organize people in factories, to organize people in the neighborhoods. That's the main thing of our party. And so this, I will end with the structures of the party. We have tried something new. History will tell if we are right or not, I don't know. We have, at the top of our party, we have 3 types of membership. So we continue to be a cadre party, but now we define ourselves a cadre party with a mass character. And meaning, the cadres is 700,000 people in Belgian scale, and we are unified. There is a debate, there's a harsh debate on every topic, Ukraine war, China, the character of China, imperialism today, etc. There is an open discussion, and there is a good discussion in the cadres. But once we decide something, after a debate, we all go for it, all. And that's a holy thing, that the unity of the cadres, that the treasure of our party is that, of the 1,000 cadres. And because the more you unified on a democratic way, after discussion, on a dialectical way, the more you are ideologically and politically strong, the more you can experiment with all the other tactics. There is a link to the political and ideological unification at the summit of the party, and the capacity to be flexible on so all starts there. Then we have a second layer. So this is 700,000 militant cadres. Then we have a second layer of people in basic groups, base groups we call them, and they become communists. They are not communists. When they enter, you have to become active in the party. We have meetings once a month. We have financial contribution, and you have to do some task. So you have to become active in the party, in these base groups, and you are in a process to become communist. But you can enter. If you like the party, if you want to work together with us, you can't enter in the base groups. And these base groups are in the factories and in... So that's a new layer. Not all people in this level of base group are already communists. They know they are in a communist party, they know our orientation and our politics, but they are still in the process of this. It is not the Leninist discourse, it's more a Martov thing. And it can be, it also means that there is some social democratization pressure from these groups. Right? It's not only positive things, but most of the new militants, most of the new workers coming to the militant level, they came from the base group. They work 2-3 years and they say, okay, I like the party, I'm growing the party, and so now I come. And then we have a third layer. They have no voting right in the party, and that is card-carrying members. So that we have 20,000. You just go internet, ptb.be, you fill in your name, 20 euros a year, and you're a card-carrying member. Everyone here can do it. You don't have to do it, but we have no control. We have no control at all. I think most of them, they are really sympathetic to the party. They know what we are. But why did we do it? So it's not at all a communist level. But why do we do it? We say, okay, they are simple. It's like a fan club for a football team, and the most of them, they are proud. They are in the pub in the evening, and I'm a member of the. Okay, sometimes it's a problem because if the same people then talks, so we have some problem with that. But the advantage is also huge because they are proud card-carrying members. Even if they are not organized, they have no voting rights, they cannot be delegates of the congresses, so they know it is in our statute. This layer is a simple, but we don't call them sympathizers with the party. They have a card-carrying, and that's the 3 levels we are experimenting with. And the danger with that is also from this kind of thing. We thought, like for example, with the Ukraine war, we, in the parliament after the invasion of Russia in Ukraine, we had a debate about the war, and okay, we said also, okay, Russia cannot enter in Ukraine, we condemn that, but then there was the debate on the sanctions, and we were the only party in parliament voting against the sanctions the week after. And of course, we were treated as Putin versteer and so on. You know the drill. The week after the 7th October in Tel Aviv, there was a debate in the parliament, and we said it didn't start the 7th October. It started in 48. It was totally not popular in the parliament. And so we were afraid, and we thought, okay, what's going to happen with these 20,000 people with card-carrying members? And we were surprised. It was okay. It's rather okay. On the Ukraine, where from the 20,000, I think 100, not more, sent their card back. No problem. No, not fan anymore for the fan club. No problem. But we honestly, I thought there would be much more people, and there is a sympathy that we are clear and that we are confronting the powers that be, speaking truth to power. There is also a possibility in these times to do that. On a tactical way, you don't have to exaggerate, you have to argument, you have to be tactical, of course, but there is a respect also that we are a party that is against the current. Even people that don't like us, they say, okay, you can say a lot of people, they are PTB, but they are, okay, they are honest people. And so that's our point of view, but let's be clear, because there were some nice words at the beginning. In Belgium, there's still fascist party, it's a big party, the right wing is gaining, and so it's not a socialist republic of Belgium, it doesn't exist at all. We have a lot of problems, there is a lot of, we have now a strike movement against the new government who is attacking the pensions. It's a general strike. It will continue in September, October. We're trying to link the strike movement with the work against militarization, also in the trade unions. But we are at a starting point. So you don't have to idolize either the people. And we will also have some electoral, at one point we will lose also electorally. And that's not a problem. You don't have to like the PTB because we are going so. No, you have to stay in contact with all the parties in Europe, also when they decline, also when it's difficult. Then maybe more you can see who is the real enemies and trying to help you. It's not because we are successful now on the election. That's nice and that's good, and I'm proud about that, but that's not the essential thing of our party. That's not the essential thing of what we are doing. We are trying to reconstruct a working class power on the factory floor, in the trade unions, in the people's quarters. That's our goal, and we are at the very, very beginning of that phase. But I'm convinced there is a space for that also in Germany. Really, it's the 6th, 7th time in the last 2 years, and in Berlin, in Kiel, in Hamburg, and there's a lot. There is the potential for that also exists here. It also exists in the Netherlands. Hey, this sociological potential of the counter force, 10-15% electorally, that exists. And small things can become rapidly big if there is a good leadership, if there is a good orientation. But in times of crisis, things that are small can become big also rapidly. That's also a law of motion. So let's work on that law of motion everywhere in Europe. I thank you.
Ja, herzlichen Dank für die Thesen und Einblicke in die Kämpfe auch in Belgien, aber auch darüber hinaus. Wir können jetzt diskutieren.
How to convince a social democratic electorate that is working for German military-industrial complex, like for Rheinmetall, that sells weapons to Saudi Arabia and not democratic countries overall, that social democracy is a means to lower the interests of the worldwide socialist interests.
Ja, hallo. Ja, jetzt verständlich. Nicht? Mein Name ist Olaf Walter und danke für den sehr lebendigen Vortrag und vor allem für die sehr schöne Simultanübersetzung. Zu China und so weiter ließe sich viel sagen. Ich halte das für ein kapitalistisches Land mit strenger Sozialdemokratie. Also das ist hier nicht kaum zu verstehen. Noch näher ran, ja, normalerweise spreche ich ohne Mikro. Mit sehr starker sozialdemokratischer Regulierung, also ein Akkumulationsregime mit hoher Dynamik. Aber gut, das ist eine Unterscheidung zu den USA, aber wir sollten ja auf uns selber bauen. Das machte ja nun auch der Beitrag zur Partei aus. Dazu einige Fragen, was ich vielleicht vertiefen ließe. Was macht man denn hauptsächlich gegen die Depression und die Nostalgie? Im Grunde genommen ist das eine Medaille nach meinem Dafürhalten. Wäre meine erste Frage. Das zweite ist, naja, mit dem Vox Populi ist das immer etwas schwierig. Mit der Vox Populi ist das immer etwas schwierig. Wenn etwas dabei herauskommt wie ein Aphorismus von Brecht, der bei Mutiny heißt, Hunger ist ein schlechter Koch, dann bin ich einverstanden. Ansonsten finde ich, sollte man gerade für die Überzeugung zur Alternative sehr sorgfältig sein. Meine letzte Frage lautet, wie seid ihr zu diesem interessanten Organisationsmodell gekommen?
Ich bin jetzt dran? Okay, ich stehe mal auf, damit ihr mich erkennt hier. Also erstmal fand ich deinen Beitrag sehr gut. Er spricht mir viel aus meinem Herzen. Und ich greife mal 2 Punkte auf, die ich wichtig finde. Und zwar hast du gesagt, dass wir eine neue Taktik anwenden müssen, dass wir uns auch anders bewegen müssen auf der Straße und dass wir auch, der zweite Punkt, Selbstvertrauen haben müssen. Das hat Marx auch schon gesagt. Marx hat das als eine ganz wichtige Entwicklung der Arbeiter gesehen, Selbstvertrauen herzustellen. Das Selbstvertrauen als Arbeiter, ich bin übrigens Bauarbeiter. Ne? Ich habe mein Leben lang auf dem Bau gearbeitet und habe mich auch gesundheitlich kaputt gemacht. Aber das Selbstvertrauen entsteht dadurch, dass du den Kollegen bewusst machst, dass du das Wichtigste und das Wertvollste in der Gesellschaft bist. Ja, warum ist das so? Ja, weil du mit deiner Arbeitskraft Dinge herstellst, die die Gesellschaft am Leben halten, die die Gesellschaft ermöglichen, dass es hier weiter geht und die Menschen hier leben können. Wir bauen Häuser, wir bauen Tische, alles, was du siehst hier um uns herum, haben wir gemacht als Arbeiter. Ne? Und darauf müssen wir... Was ist jetzt? Ein bisschen kürzer, bitte. Die Frage kommt gleich, ja, aber ich möchte auch gerne ein bisschen erklären, okay? Und das alles, was uns umgibt, haben wir gemacht. Ne? Und wenn wir uns das bewusst machen, dann haben wir Selbstvertrauen. Und der zweite Schritt ist Selbstbewusstsein. Das Selbstbewusstsein entsteht dann dadurch, dass wir uns Kenntnisse und Wissen aneignen und damit dann halt auch in der Lage sind, Straßenagitation zu machen. Ich mache zum Beispiel Straßenagitation. Wir machen rotes Sofa in Harburg und sprechen die Menschen an. Und genau das, was du gesagt hast, dass man die Menschen da abholen muss, wo sie sich auch gerade befinden, also in Not oder in ihren Sorgen. Und darüber kannst du Menschen auch kennenlernen und Vertrauen herstellen. Und dieses rote Sofa ist ziemlich gut, läuft ganz gut. Aber es ist ein wichtiger Schritt, konkret was zu machen. Okay, das wollte ich jetzt mal gesagt haben und ich stimme mit dir ziemlich überein. Danke.
Danke. First of all, coming from Belgium, I want to say also this. I was raised, I was born in 1969, and I was raised so in the 20th century. And from a Belgian point of view, we had this idea, from a Belgian point of view, that you should not give weapons to Germans. And that was our point. Our point of view was the combination of Germany, chauvinism, and militarism is not a good thing. And so from a Belgian point of view, what's now happening since the Zeitenwende and since the 18th of March, and so it's rather spectacular. The militarization of German society is something specific, and also the military industry raising. So we ourselves, we have not much experience with how to talk with people in the military industry. There is not so much military industry. But that being said, on social democracy and on the times that are coming, I think there's two sides on this story. On one side of this story is, I do think that what is happening and that what will happen in general in Europe is they will destroy some kinds of the social security systems everywhere in Europe in the next 5 and 10 years. And the social democrats will do also. And so the experience of a big people that now votes for social democracy, they will one way or another see that on the socio-economic level they will not defend the interests. And so most of the people, they learn by experience. Some people learn by knowledge. You have to combine both. But you have to be also a little bit patient for the next 5 or 10 years. The people will also experience that the social democratic presence in the government will not avoid longer working hours, will not avoid more flexibility, will not avoid working till 67, till maybe 70 years, etc. That will happen. We have to stay in contact, not with the leadership of the Social Democrats, but with the people even voting for the Social Democrats, because we will have to build bridges. The moment they will turn their back to the Social Democrats, there has to be some kind of bridge to us. Because if we don't have some kind of bridge with this kind of voters, they will all go to the fascists. And so we make a difference to trade unionists, working class people, voting for the Social Democrats. We have the discussions, etc. But there has to be some kind of door that is open on that level, because at the moment that they turn their back to the Social Democratic Party, a part of them have to come to us. That's, I think, important. Secondly, I do think the discussion about what's the orientation of the European Union is important everywhere. I really think that this orientation of the militarization of the whole society and this crazy thing of 3.5% budget of NATO, it will destroy Europe. I really think that. Not only social security, the world is changing and Asia is growing. We can have a debate on China. We can have all kind of titles on China, but China is growing rapidly, technologically, economically, it is growing. And the place of Europe in this changing world is important. And if we go in this militaristic part, if we really think that we can defeat a nuclear power like Russia by arming more this stupid war, we will go to the we will go to hell with Europe. It is not the answer. And I think we have to say it clear. Maybe a part of the population doesn't understand it maybe now, but there has to be some forces that say this path to militarization will not only destroy social security, will not only destroy your salary, your pensions, etc. It will also direct and orientate Europe to the affluent, to the disaster. We need, as Europe, also in this phase, we need to have contact with Russia. Russia will be there. There will be no helicopter taking Russia somewhere on another place on the planet. It will not happen. Russia will be a neighbor. And it's better, you don't have to drink tea with your neighbor every evening, that's not necessary, but you can, a little bit understanding and talking with the neighbor is important with Russia. We have to have relations with China, we have to have relations with the BRICS countries as Europe, we have to diversify, we have to stop to follow Trump or to follow Biden. It's not a Trump problem, it's a US imperialism problem. We have to have another course in Europe. Where are the European leaders who, even from a bourgeois point of view, they are all following Trump? They will go to The Hague. They will say, yes, sir, certainly. All of them. Also Macron. Also, there are no de Gaulle moments, even on the bourgeois. Where is that? And we have to say, if Europe wants to survive in the 21st century and don't want to become some kind of neo-Goths and Celts and all these small groups fighting again like in the medieval, we have to reorientate Europe. We have to have resources for technological development in Europe. The crisis from Volkswagen and the automobile sector, etc. There is a technological gap that is huge between Europe at this moment and the Chinese. That is huge. Why don't we reorientate the industrial production? Why don't we take state control over this kind of production, reorientate resources, public development, etc., to reorientate to a new transport economy, to a new, to tackle also the climate changes. In Spain, there is the problem of Spain is not Putin. Putin has nothing to do with it. The problem in Spain is there is no harvest anymore in the south. The problem of Spain, among many other things, is the climate change. Why don't? And so if Europe is not changing and is thinking we have to defeat the Russians, we have to have 8 times more warplanes, 8 times more frigates, etc., it will be disastrous. So these two things is important for me. There will be experience of people that they will betray, they will do that, they are doing that, but they will continue. So a little bit patience, stay in contact, stay with bridges, but also be clear about this path to war for Europe. It is a dead end for Europe. Everyone knows Europe is the big loser in this Cold War. And if we're trying to follow the US even more, I don't believe in an independent imperialistic Europe neither. I am for a socialist Europe. But on the first stage, we have to say, we have to stop to follow Washington, and we have to stop to follow this path of militarization, in my opinion. I don't know whether I understood all the other questions, but yeah, nostalgia and depression, is it another word? I really believe in the better you know the history, the better you're capable to foresee the future. So I'm in favor of the historical knowledge of the working class movements and the communist movements. I'm in favor to study the victories of the working class movements and the defeats of the working class movement. I'm in favor of dialectics. And to see the situations like this, really, I'm in favor of history. So don't get me wrong. I'm not. I'm workers and people who know their history. They are more stronger, because if you know what the working class movement in history already constructed in very difficult situations, we can even inspire ourselves on some of the creativity. So don't get me wrong. I'm saying that if we are orientating people, we have to orientate people to the future, not only to the defensive level. say no to militarism, say no to fascism, say no to austerity, but also say that this kind of system where we're living in is a disaster. There is a systemical problem, and we need another society. We need a socialist society for the future. That's what I'm saying. You can not only going back and the hope you give to people is to change their lives in the future, of course. That was my meaning of the word nostalgia. But maybe it's otherwise here in Germany. We had some kind of problems at some point where they said, okay, you're always talking about the balance of forces in the 1950s and the 1960s. And it's important, but we have to reconstruct. That was the meaning of what I said about that. And the Vox Populi, populism, Hungary is a bad cook. Hungary is a bad cook. I know we have to make people conscient, and it's related also with the other intervention. I do know to build class consciousness is a difficult task. To make people proud again of the class that produces all the wealth, it is a difficult task. I'm only saying that people are I'm going to give some examples. For example, I think that's everywhere the same. Some people think the politicians are the main enemy. And they serve themselves with 8,000 euro pensions in Belgium. If you're 2 times in parliament, then you have a pension of 8,000 euro netto. And you can go in pension in 63 years. And the same people that will have 8,000 euro pension and that can quit at 63 years. The same people, they are saying the pensions are too high and you have to work to 70 years. So we think it's totally normal that every normal worker says, what the fuck, these people, and we say that in the parliament, for example. It is not class conscious, raising class. I agree, but still we say it. Because this hate is the first level of class hate somewhere expressed. We express it. It is not normal. And so we also attack the privilege of the politicians. But we try to make the link to attack the capital. Not the politician, but the capital. We try to make the link. We also use this anti-establishment. We can discuss on that. Some say it's populist. We say we need also this entry because then we have the attention of people. And then we can really try to educate. But I really do agree. The anti-establishment layer is not a class-conscious layer. I really do agree. But maybe we need it. Maybe we need also that anger to express itself because it is the level. I was in New York when, with my book, when this big pharma guy was shot down in New York, you know, there was a man working for the insurance companies for big pharma. He was a big thief. All the big pharma insurance companies in the US, they are totally, it's a crazy situation. And he was shot down in New York. I was at that time, I had nothing to do with it, but I was in New York. And then there was a discussion I had discussions in trade unions in the US, and they said there is no class consciousness at all, etc. But I can understand that. But at the same time, after this murder, I don't agree with this murder, the hate of the people in the United States, the sympathy with this thing was huge. And I say, okay, let's start maybe there. It's not class consciousness, it's class hate. It's class hate. It exists also in the United States. And I know individual terror is not I know the brother of Lenin trying to kill the Tsar, etc. It's not the answer. It's the mirror of a certain epoch. It's the mirror also of the weakness of the organized forces. But we cannot only criticize that, we also have to start with this hate against and so this language, in my opinion, we need. We need also this language. It does not replace raising class consciousness. I know you cannot stop there. You have to continue to educate about the role of the monopolies, educate about the role of the state, etc. But in our experience, we are trying to use also this kind of anti-establishment layer. It can be a discussion, but we do it. And if we don't do it, it's only the fascists that do it, and they will use it against us. And on the new tactics, let's be clear, the best new tactics are the old tactics also for us. No, I mean, speaking one-to-one, two persons is the best. You cannot change that with a mobile phone. You cannot change that with a TikTok movie. You cannot change that with a communication strategy. The basic, our base groups, their task is to be active in the factory and active, or in the company, and be active in the people's quarters each weekend, going door by door, organizing things. That's the fundamental thing. Like, I don't know if it exists in German, in Flemish, there is a parable about the three little bigs constructing houses. Do you know there's a story? The first little big, they constructing some kind of fast house, and it was blown away by the wolf. And the second big constructed a house in woods, and it was also blown away by the wolf. And the third big took a lot of time. He constructed a brick house, and the wolf couldn't blow away the brick house. And so what we are doing is we are building a brick house because there will be storms. There will be no replacement for the difficult one-to-one argument in the factory, in the neighborhood. That's the basic. So it's and. You have to do that, that's the base, but you can also use public figures of the party, social media strategy to be more known. But it never replaces it. I totally agree. The best organizing tactics is the old, bringing people together, doing public education, organize discussions, organize actions together, etc. That's the best thing that you can do. And that's why also in our party we have each base group 1.5 hour or 1 hour of public education, but we also try to organize things, doing things. Because you also attract some kind, like when we went to help the people who were flooded in the south of the country, there was 68 deaths and there was 30,000 homes that were destroyed. But the kind of people we attracted when we went to help them, that were doing, it was almost all working class people, and they with two hands, and they were doing things. It was a kind of people we need, not the talking people, but also the doing people. And we have to combine, and you have also to search that kind, in my opinion, initiative to attract people, because some people, they don't want to sit on their ass in a meeting every time. They also want to do and organize something, and that's some reflections on some questions. Okay.
Okay, dann die nächste Runde. Als erstes Arthur und dann die Person dahinter. Ja. Arthur und dann die Person dahinter mit dem rot-weißen Schal. Und dann er und dann
I have two questions. One is regarding the social media thing you are doing, because I think it's apparent that social media is dominated by the monopoly interests of US corporations. Mainly, they are designed to make us dependent, depoliticize us, isolate us, and turn us into commodities. So my question is, how are you dealing with this structural problem when you try to do educational work in this environment? That's my one question. And the other thing is, there must be much anti-communism against your party and what you are doing, of course in the media and also in personal direct relations. So my question is, how do you deal with this anti-communism? Do you just leave it to the right side and say, yeah, they will do what they will do because they are afraid of us? Or do you counter it directly? Do you say, what's the interest behind it? What are the mechanisms? And to educate also your members to deal with these campaigns.
hier links mit dem karierten Hemd.
Ich bin, glaube ich, dran, ne?
Ja, jetzt du. Genau.
Ich habe zwei Fragen. Ich würde sie gerne in deutscher Sprache stellen, Übersetzung umgekehrt. Die erste Frage ist, ich stimme überein mit dieser geopolitischen Einschätzung, die du gegeben hast, und dass für Europa es erforderlich ist, dass es sich eben unterscheidet davon, wie imperialistische Mächte gegeneinander sozusagen die Konkurrenz jetzt auch militärisch immer mehr austragen. Und da gibt es ja die alte Idee von dem europäischen Haus der Sicherheit. Und das ist aus meiner Sicht eine transformationale Idee, die über das übliche kapitalistische Konkurrenz und imperialistische Konkurrenzgehabe hinausgeht. Und die Frage ist, ob das eine Idee ist, die auch in Belgien also lebt oder existiert und wie ihr da als Partei dazu steht. Und die zweite Frage ist, und vielleicht knüpft die auch gut an die erste Frage an, es gibt ja immer auch bürgerliche Kräfte, also was die Friedensfrage angeht, Friedensbewegung hier, da waren Kommunisten dabei, aber da waren eben auch bürgerliche Kräfte, die eine andere Vorstellung hatten als die Regierenden und die Herrschenden. Und das war ja jetzt in den letzten Jahren in Deutschland auch so, und ich nehme an, dass es auch in Belgien so ist, dass es viele Bewegungen gibt, zum Beispiel für die Begrünung des Kapitalismus. Und wie versucht ihr mit solchen Bewegungen in Kontakt zu kommen, Bündnispolitik zu machen und dort Systemfragen hineinzubringen? Weil das könnte da diese Bewegung ja auch auf die Seite von Arbeiterbewegungen bringen. Das ist meine zweite Frage.
Ich bin jetzt dran, oder? Ja, okay. Also mein Name ist Bernd Schöpe. Erstmal herzlichen Dank für den engagierten Vortrag. Ich habe zwei Fragen. Die erste Frage nach meinen Kenntnissen ist die Arbeiterbewegung in Belgien also immer noch deutlich schlagkräftiger als in Deutschland. Woran liegt das? Meiner Ansicht nach hat das was auch mit der Geschichte des Landes zu tun. Aber bevor ich jetzt hier irgendwelche Hypothesen äußere dazu, würde ich lieber gerne einen Belgier dazu fragen. Die zweite Frage, die, glaube ich, hier im Raum von besonderem Interesse sein dürfte oder eigentlich auch sein müsste, ist, was lernt die deutsche Linke von der belgischen? Und da würde ich dich, Peter, mal bitten um eine Einschätzung, warum die deutsche Linke eigentlich in so einer schwachen Situation sich befindet, wobei schwach, finde ich, noch euphemistisch ausgedrückt ist. Und die klare politische Analyse, die du vorgetragen hast, also von der ist also die Linke, zumindest die Linke, die in Deutschland bei der letzten Bundestagswahl, die sogenannte Linke, die bei der letzten Bundestagswahl Erfolg hatte und ja fast annähernd so groß geworden ist wie eure Partei, wie es da eigentlich eben an dieser politischen Analyse mangelt. Denn die Linken haben sich ja für die Sanktionen ausgesprochen und nicht nur das, sondern sie sind ja inzwischen eine wichtige politische Kraft, die eigentlich mehr in Richtung auf Eskalation des Konfliktes mit Russland geht, als dass sie das irgendwie deeskalieren würden. Gut, das wären meine Fragen.
Noch eine? Okay. Elias noch.
Ja, hallo, mein Name ist Elias Glesner, ich bin Mitglied in der sogenannten Linken und kann davon auch sagen, dass wenn man gerade um diese Orientierung kämpft, möglicherweise sich auch ein bisschen anderes Bild ergeben kann. Jedenfalls halte ich für wesentlich, sich selber als Linke nicht immer schwächer zu reden, als man ist. Ich habe tatsächlich eine Frage in Bezug auf das schon reflektierte Problem der notwendigen Herausbildung von Klassen- oder Selbstbewusstsein in der Arbeiterschaft unter Berücksichtigung des Umstandes, dass es ja erstmal eine historische Negativzäsur gegeben hat. Meines Erachtens ist dabei nicht nur entscheidend, aus der Geschichte zu lernen in einem materialistisch-analytischen Sinne, sondern auch sich neu auch der kulturellen Hervorbringungen von Menschheit und Arbeiterbewegung zu stellen und zu widmen. Wir haben hier im Kino gegen Austerität alle 2 Wochen Filme, die wir zeigen. Da haben wir auch mal den Film Dance gezeigt, gerade über die belgische Arbeiterbewegung. Und unabhängig davon, wie man jetzt dann die historisch konkreten Situationen reflektieren mag, finde ich, ist das immer schon wesentlich, auch für die Herausbildung eines Selbstbewusstseins zu erkennen, welche ästhetische Qualität eigentlich mit den Kämpfen und der Herausbildung auch erweiterter Ansprüche an das Dasein verbunden ist. Deswegen meine Frage, welche Rolle spielt bei euch auch diese ästhetische Qualifizierungsarbeit?
Okay, thank you for the questions. First, social media. You're absolutely right. I don't know if you heard, like in the International Court of International Strafhof, International Criminal Court in Den Hague, the Prosecutor General, Khan, Trump ordered Microsoft and Mega to block the emails of the prosecutor of the International Criminal Courts. So he's not a left-wing guy, I can't, not at all. We can't talk about him. But 2 weeks ago, he wanted to open his emails, and it was blocked by Microsoft. Also, he can't pay his bills anymore, but because he is blocked, his Visa card is blocked. That's today. So you're absolutely right. The power of these monopolies on this kind of things is huge. And the balance of forces is in their hands. In my opinion, one day we have to monopolize and socialize Mega and all these companies and make their public companies from it. We don't have to destroy it, we have to take it. But we are not there. In the meantime, we had a problem, like we are almost nothing. We have the first level is a street level, and the basic level, and the door-to-door, and the mouth-to-mouth level of popularity. That's one layer, and that's the basic layer. That's our brick house to confront the storm. That's the basic thing. But on that level, above that level, we are almost not invited in the traditional media. Almost not. There is a little bit change. And then so we decided we will try to construct some kind of our own media. And so we are trying, we have just started also a podcast on YouTube, etc., to try that. But we are also using Facebook from Meta, from all these monopolies. We are using TikTok, and we know maybe one day they can cut us off. But meanwhile, we use it. Like, for example, on Palestine question, on the organization, we had a manifestation of 80,000 people 1 month ago around Palestine again. The whole manifestation was organized via TikTok and Facebook. And I think we have to be creative. The agitprop from today is not the agitprop from 1925. And we have to use these methods, even if we know that at one day they can block us like they blocked the International Court of Justice. We know it. But meanwhile, we're using it. Our most popular elected is a young man. He's the most popular on TikTok in Belgium, politician. He has 1 million views, which is a lot of in Belgium. He's the most popular. He's in TikTok. And in the beginning, some older comrades and me, to be quite honest, they said, okay, TikTok, shows. But he's talking about genocide, he's talking about the military, it works. Maybe one day they will cut it. So, but why should we not use it? We're living in capitalism, we're using stuff that we produced, like he said, but that is owned by monopolies. We have a Siemens radio or not, etc., etc. We use these things. We use also TikTok, we use also Microsoft, etc. Because otherwise we are not represented in the mass media, and from some kind of ideological pureness, we will not use, yeah, okay, we will win. Our task is to win. we will take every card. Because our goal is to win. Our goal is not to play nice, fuck them. Our goal is to win. That must be the starting point, because otherwise you can be so pure that you have no influence at all. Right? We have no illusion. They can cut us one, and we are also on our own email system, our own servers. We don't use it. We are not stupid at all. Right? So internally in the party, we have other things we use than the Mega and other servers than the servers in the US. But on the mass level, we use it. Secondly, anti-communism is a good question. To be quite honest, I think for the moment we shut our mouth. We let the storm come. They call us communists, they call us communists, they call us communists. To be quite honest, for the moment, we don't do any education against anti-communism. Maybe it's wrong. Maybe we are thinking how to cope with it. But I will be honest with you, it is a problem. They attack us, they attack us, they attack us. On Cuba, we defend, we defend Cuba. But like on the historical anti-communism, internally we have a lot of discussions on that. But to the outside world, for the moment, maybe our stance is not. That's the reality. I'm not going to lie about the reality. Maybe it's a problem of our party. Maybe it's. So we're not educating, and so we are not also we're not with the hammer and sickle flag every time. Everyone in Belgium calling us communists. So there's a discussion, and some people say, okay, if that's communism, etc., etc. But to really educate about historical communism, we don't do on a mass level, and maybe that's a problem. So you pointed correctly at some weak point of our party. Geopolitically, on the European. So our point of view is now what's happening in Europe. We're trying to study it because before you had the Atlantic axe that was defended by London. It was the most certain Atlantic axe in Europe. And then they leave Europe with the Brexit. And London is changed by the Baltic countries, by Poland, and they are the pro-NATO, pro-American axe, etc. Then we were saying, okay, is there a possibility for a European bourgeoisie to really create a European imperialism that is apart from NATO? It's an important debate, but at this moment we don't see it, because if you see the structures of the army, the NATO control, the control also of the American weapon industry on the weapon itself, like the F-35. Okay, it's old school thing, but they sell it to Belgium. Belgium is going to buy 5 F-35s. When they leave up, when they go up, they're already outside Belgium. It's fucking crazy, but we will buy them. But the US control all the software of the US. Lockheed Martin controls the software of the F-35. And so this whole weapon industry at this moment is for a big, not only, but a big time linked with NATO. And we don't think for the moment there will be a European militarization totally outside the NATO umbrella. But it is a discussion, and we are in the midst of the turmoil, and so we are not defending an autonomic imperialistic strategy against NATO. That's not our stance. We say, okay, we have to, in the first step, we have to leave to follow, we have to stop to follow the US and Washington, and we have to rethink another Europe. We have to discuss about a socialist Europe with other relations to China, etc. But in Belgium, it's not a big discussion. But that was your question. Is it a topic in Belgium? No, not at all. Belgium is traditionally more pro-European Union because we are very small, and we are at the beginning with Benelux, etc., and the EEG at the beginning. So the majority is rather in favor of the European idea, but this European peace concept, it's of security concept, it's not a debating point in Belgium, to be quite honest. Then on the peace movement in Belgium, it is weak. I think the peace movement also historically in Germany is much more stronger than it was in Belgium, also from your history, etc. But the peace movement historically in Belgium was weak, so it is a reconstruction process with all the disadvantages, but with some advantages. For example, now when we are trying to link the general strike movement against the pensions cuts, with the militarization. We had the first discussions also with the leadership of the trade unions. And there will be in the next program for the next general strike also agitation from the trade unions against the militarization. So we're building it up. It's not enough because it's the summit and you have to do the work in the workplace like we all know. But there is some possibilities, I think, in Belgium to reconstruct it on a good base, not on a petit bourgeois base, but on a good base. But it is reconstruction work. You don't, I think your peace movement historically in Germany was much more greater than it was in Belgium. And so the pro-peace, yeah, okay. The pro-peace forces are in the parliament, for example. That's not a pro. The forces pro-peace, they don't exist. But that's the same in Germany with the Greens. The Green Party in Germany. What kind of party is that? Am I? That's since the Zeitenwende. Wow. If it was not so dramatic, it could be a Monty Python sketch. No, it would. They're the most imperialistic, warmongering Baerbock. What kind of figure? Hey, wow. Okay, that's your problem in Germany. But in the political forces now, pro-peace, it is very weak, to be quite honest. But we are in a reconstruction business. What's the question about the labor movement historically is strong in Belgium. That's true. That has two axes. One axis is after the defeat of fascism in 1944. We had a social security system that was also built. So they installed social security to avoid communist agitation, literally. They installed it in 1944. They had afraid from the communists, so they gave the people social security to calm them down. And the trade unions co-control the social security. Meaning that in Belgium the trade union membership is high. Most of people in Belgium are members of a trade union because they need it for social security reasons. So traditionally on the membership level, Belgium is very high. That's only one thing, because also a clientelistic way, it's not a class conscious way, but a clientelistic way. But on the other hand, the class struggle history from the working class in the south in Belgium was always like a French-orientated, really class. There was a lot of anarcho-syndicalism at the end of the 19th century, direct confrontation from the miners in the beginning of the 20th, and then the Communist Party in the French-speaking part was really important. And so this tradition from anarcho-syndicalism and communist syndicalism in trade unionism is in the south, in the French-speaking part, still there. It's much smaller, but there is this kind of, they are not totally controlled on every level by social democracy. But the social democrats are in government now, and so the socialist trade union is waging this general strike movement, even if there is socialists in the government. So that's why there is more power for the moment, I think, on the class struggle level in trade unions in Belgium. But it is what it is, and this kind of trade unionism, trade union conscience is not communist conscience. It's a starting point, it's very important, but it's not the same as building a real class consciousness. It's not another work. It's a good starting point, but that's the tradition, you're right. From the Dutch the situation in Germany, okay. Of course, I can't say, like you will understand, I'm from Belgium, I don't know nothing. No, that's not true, but I do think, and that's up to everyone, like I said, I think there is a possibility and a potential everywhere. I do think that, and there is also a necessity everywhere. I also do think, I know personally comrades from the DKP, which I respect a lot. I know some comrades from Die Linke, which I respect a lot, and I know like people like Steven Dagdelen, who now left to the BSW. Okay, BSW I'm not so fan, but I have a respect for people like Steven. And so I know people from, I know trade unionists who have not a party. I think the most important question for everyone trying to reconstruct a modern communist party or a socialist party, a party for socialism, is you have to be clear about your goal. You have to be clear about what kind of party you want to describe, want to construct. Because if you are not clear and if you have not unity, what's the type of the party you want to construct? What is the goal of the party? Is the goal of the party to get some Scandinavian social democratic model? Then you build another kind of party. Then when the goal of the party is to overcome capitalism, to build socialism. The goal defines the type of party you will build. And so that is on every party to decide what is the goal of the party, and starting from the goal, you will resemble and you will build a party concept to reach that goal. And that's the link, and that's up to every party. And I think if the goal is not clear, or if there's no unity in the leadership about the goal, the structures won't be clear either. So the type of party, in my opinion, is really linked with the goal, and the type of construction of the leadership of the party is also linked with the goal. Because if you are thinking, okay, we have to take power in capitalism and in Bundestag and in the parliament, you choose other kind of peoples. Then you think, okay, we have to build a second force, a counter force in the working class areas, in the neighborhoods, and that's our base. And starting from there, we will build a second force, a counter force, and we will use parliament as a megaphone. That's another type of party you're building, and that's up to every party to decide. It's not up to me. And that being said, I think in DKP and in Die Linke and people who have no party for the moment, there are a lot of capable comrades that I know. I'm not going to judge and give point. It's not my position. I just think it's important to see what's the goal and how to reach that goal. And then if it's clear, and if you can have unity with 400, 500,000 cadres to that goal, you can, that's the base, and then it can go fast. But first, construct this unity among 500 of 1,000 people from the leadership from X or Y. That's a difficult task, and that's the most urgent task. In my opinion too, the election is not the most, the election thing is not the most strategic task to build. It is important because it makes a difference if a megaphone in Bundestag, but it's not the most strategic task. It's a task to build, but it's the only advice. And I do understand the situation in Germany is really other than the situation in our country. So please don't copy our model. Please think, please think with your own heads, starting for your own situation, and do not copy paste. Learn where's to learn, and do not do what you think you don't have to do. That's up to you. I cannot. Culture. Last question. The role of culture and aesthetics, etc. I do think also that music, dance, film, art, etc. to build up. No, I'm going to phrase it otherwise. On that aspect, I do think Gramsci has right. On that aspect, we can have a whole Gramsci debate. There is also a revolutionary Gramsci, in my opinion, but there's no other debate. But on that aspect of building a counter-hegemony, also on the cultural level, around a working class force, to have the cultural dominance of the working class force in the other strata of the population, I think is super actual. And to assemble also all kind of arts, all kind of aesthetics around this goal of the broad class struggle, that is important. Like for one example, for us now one of our main campaigns now is Palestine since the beginning, against the genocide. This whole campaign, artists against genocide, writers against genocide, etc. There's a lot of people who want to do something for the Palestinians, and so they are creating some kind of culture, a new culture. They use images of opal, if you know the historical opal affiches from the 60s and the 70s, from Cuba and the non-aligned movement, but they are recreating a new thing, and that is nice, and I think it is necessary. And when we had the last general strike in 2014, there was the big general strike against the right-wing movement from the trade unions. We said, okay, we don't only need the trade unions confronting the pension question with we also need a group around this class struggle to support the struggle against the government. And there was a civil society we inspired, Hart boven Hart, Hart with a T, boven Hart with a D, whatever, a cultural group, and they assembled a lot of poets and a lot of writers in the Flemish, and they went for the first time to the picket lines, for example, in a dock in Antwerp, and they went with artists to the dock. It was 2015, and they wanted to read out poetry, and I was thinking, oh fucking hell. Okay, we go to the dock workers, and there is an artist with and there was total silence. There was 1,000 dock workers, and there was one people reading out poetry, and it was, wow, it was a magical moment. And then we continued with this civil organization of singers, and now when there's a general strike, there's some people with guitars, etc., recreating, and we have even some more known singers, television singers, going now to the picket line, etc. And so recreate, to also have this contact from the cultural front in this class I really think it's important. And for our identity as a party, having a clear orientation in aesthetics is also important. Before, every section of our party, that's a detail, but I'm going to say it, they had their own leaflets, and they were ugly. Really, everyone created their own. And so now we have really authoritarian style. Everyone has to use the same colors. Everyone has to use the same logo, and have to, because we want to also create a face with the party. And it's not the most important, but still, we want to create a face as a party also online, and so yeah, aesthetics are important, cultural front, a broad cultural front is, I don't know whether it was your question, but in each case it's my answer. So.
Hallo, Martin heiße ich. Ich habe eine Frage zu eurer Europapolitik. Ich habe das vorhin, vielleicht habe ich es auch nicht richtig verstanden, so vom Englischen her. Aber ich habe das auch so verstanden, dass ihr eigentlich auch vertretet, dass Europa im Nachtrab ist gegenüber anderen Machtblöcken. Also zum Beispiel, du hattest ein Beispiel Autoindustrie mit China und Europa irgendwie gebracht. Und da würde ich doch gerne nochmal euren Standpunkt zu eurer Europapolitik hören, weil also für mich klang das eher ziemlich eurozentristisch, und ich finde so als Marxisten, ihr sagt ja, ihr seid eine kommunistische Partei, als Marxist bin ich gegen jede Form von Imperialismus, so mal ganz grundsätzlich, ne? Und was bei dir auch gar nicht überhaupt nicht zu hören war, das war diese Frage der internationalen Einheit der Arbeiterklasse. Ne, welche Schritte denn da auch gemacht werden, das herzustellen. Ansonsten führt diese Politik läuft doch immer daraus hinaus, dass man sich einem anderen Imperialismus irgendwie anbietet, wie zum Beispiel den russischen. So, ne, und das kann es ja eigentlich aus einem marxistischen Standpunkt heraus ja eigentlich nicht sein. Also vielleicht kannst du da nochmal drauf eingehen, das wäre super.
Jetzt direkt daneben und dann Reinhard.
Ne, das ist sehr ähnlich. Wir haben es nicht miteinander abgesprochen. Ich habe fast eine ähnliche Frage, deswegen ich mache das jetzt nicht.
Okay, danke. Dann Reinhard und danach ist Kai.
Ja, ja. Peter, ich glaube, wir sind uns einig, die größte Herausforderung für die Arbeiterklasse weltweit momentan ist die Überproduktionskrise, die bevorsteht. Und Wir wissen alle, wie eine kapitalistische Lösung dieser Krise aussieht, nämlich neue Märkte erobern und alte Märkte intensiver ausbeuten. Und neue Märkte erobern, das bedeutet eben die militärische Aufrüstung, die wir im Moment erleben. Ihr habt anlässlich der Schließung des Audi-Werkes in Brüssel, habt ihr gemeinsam mit Gewerkschaftern und den Gewerkschaften und Gewerkschaften Widerstand dagegen angekündigt unter der Parole, die Industrie gehört uns. Kannst du uns vielleicht ein bisschen was noch über eure Erfahrungen mit dieser Kampagne erzählen?
Genau, Kai und dann...
Ja, erstmal ich.
Achso, dann, okay, dann danach Kai.
I have a specific question to your country, Belgium. Belgium is not divided, but there are two parts, the French-speaking part and the Flemish part, and I just want to know if the worker parties is the basic is be anchored the same in both parts, because this is something important. For me, I don't believe in nation and other dividing groups. In the Flemish part, I know a little bit Vlaams Belang, a lot of fascist parties. If the basic is the same, and how you work together. The next question is, I'm a formerly dock worker here in the port of Hamburg, and I'm interested how your party, you spoke just before about the port of Antwerp and the dockers there and the situation. The dockers in Europe, in the world, have a big attack by the capitalistic companies, by automation everywhere. And the port of Antwerp is really big. It's the second in Europe. And I think from the count of dockers, the biggest one. So it's important the influence of political orientation in that struggle. How you are is your basic there. Okay.
So my question is there a debate about a ban of Vlaams Belang, or has there been a debate, and how can this be helpful for us as socialist parties to ban the parties where the working class votes for, and how can we win the fight about their heads when we ban the party that are the workers currently voting for? Isn't that like a stamp on their heads? And yeah, how can this be helpful? And what is your perspective? I mean, not you personally, your perspective as a PTB on this.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. My name is Rodrigo. Thank you very much at first place for coming to Hamburg and for sharing the ideas about your party and so on. I had been a little bit late to the party, but I have more general question regarding the topic of general strike. You were mentioning it several times during your discourse. Here in Germany, we don't have any right like that, legally spoken, but in Belgium, is it like that you have that right? For example, in the company I work for, within our active force of a trade union, we discussed the topic several times, and every time we discuss it, the representatives of our labor, or let's say of the leadership of our trade union, always tries to stop us discussing it and to let's say, to undermine our efforts to have such a discussion about that right to go on the general strike, because it's the only, let's say, one of the best weapons that we have as workers. And Yeah, just like that. Sorry. Thank you.
Okay, noch Christian und dann geht es zurück an Peter.
Ich wollte nochmal darauf zurückkommen. Du hast am Anfang davon gesprochen, wie wichtig es ist, dass in der Arbeiterklasse ein Selbstbewusstsein entsteht. Und der Begriff, den Reinhard eben auch verwendet hat, den ihr geprägt hat, glaube ich, die Industrie gehört uns, finde ich, ist ein ganz starker Ausdruck von Selbstbewusstsein in der Arbeiterklasse. Die Industrie gehört nicht dem Kapital, sondern gehört der Arbeiterklasse. Und in dem Zusammenhang hast du, glaube ich, in deinem Buch sehr kritisiert, dass immer mehr Subventionen von der EU und von den Nationalstaaten in die Konzerne hineingereicht werden, die Konzerne immer reicher machen, aber immer zum Nachteil der Arbeiterschaft, der Belegschaften. Und du stellst ihm entgegen, dass die Subventionen ja gerne gegeben werden können, aber nicht im Interesse des Kapitals, sondern im Interesse der Arbeiterschaft, der Belegschaften. Und vielleicht kannst du das an einem Beispiel mal erläutern, wie ihr diese Forderung umsetzt oder umsetzen wollt.
Thank you for the questions. Okay, let's be clear. Maybe I was not clear. European construction is, since the start, an imperialist construction for an imperialist European bloc, and on the level of capital and on the international level. If you see, for example, what kind of activities the European decided interventions on the last 10 years were, they were all imperialistic interventions, mostly in the Sahel, in Africa, etc., about resources and raw materials. I think even the last, it was 2 years ago, when they sent frigates to the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden, end of 23 or beginning, no, February 2024, the European Union decided to send some frigates to the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden. Of course, that had nothing to do with to prevent, to stop the genocide in Palestine. It had to do to protect the transports to the Rotterdam port and to the Antwerp port, etc., etc. It was in the interest, we sent as European Union frigates and military interventions to protect the capitalist interest in Europe. We intervene in this, the French imperialists, the Italian imperialists, the European imperialists, they intervene in the Sahel, in Africa, to protect the resources for the nuclear centrals in France. So now what they are doing, I don't think there will be only a European army. I think there will be national armies, meaning there will be the German army, the French army, the UK army, and on top of that, there will be another layer of some European intervention force. It is all to construct a European imperialist force. Let it be clear, I have no illusion. This Europe, this construction of a European Union is an imperialist construction. So the answer is not, maybe that it sounded Eurocentristic, but the answer is not an autonomous militarization of European Union as an autonomous imperialist force. That is not the answer. I said, even those people arguing that, I don't think it will happen. I see that for the moment, there is not even a de Gaulleist force in European Union. Maybe it's not an important debate, but they stay under control of the United States, and they are waging the wars of the United States. There is a transatlantic coalition that goes still forwards now. And so, yes, I do think we need a socialist Europe. And yes, I do think also we come from a small country, and that's why, for example, this idea of a socialist Belgian republic, no one believes it, because, okay, we are a small country, right? So it's other, like in France, during the campaigns, there is a lot of anti-European Union sentiment, but also an anti-Europe sentiment. In Holland, there is an anti-European Union sentiment, but also an anti-Europe sentiment. And we said from the beginning, okay, we are against European Commission, against the European policy, but we are not against Europe as itself, as a continent. And so we try to have at Manifesta, for example, we try to organize trade union meetings with people from Verdi, Van IG Metall, from the metal workers from Italy, etc., to unite. Also from metal workers from South Africa, etc., to try to build some kind of international relationship. That's our position. Meanwhile, we say, okay, we work in the European Parliament, and we try to attack the austerity measures, to attack the militarization inside the European Parliament. We use that megaphone too in the European Parliament to attack also the stance on Palestine. That's our position. So I do agree that a Eurocentric answer to only saying, if that's you wanted to say, only saying you have to break up with Washington and it will be okay would be wrong. I do agree with that. That would be an illusion that a European Union without Washington would be a non-imperialist European Union. It will not exist. To be quite honest, for me it's not clear what's going to happen now in the European Union. They will continue to follow Washington, but Germany will militarize itself. The French are seeking contacts with the military contacts with London. The Italians are seeking contact now with this coalition of the willing with London to create their own. So what are all the contradictions inside the European Union, and will be there a possibility that the European Union breaks up? It's not, for the moment, for me, in each case, it's not clear. I don't know whether it's an answer for you, but that's where we stand. On the level of Audi and the industry gehört uns, it was a strong movement, and I think the signal was good. So the trade unions in Audi factory and the workers, not only trade unions, but also the workers actively, when it was closed down, they had the big manifestation, Audi gehört uns. And I think we made a point also to the public opinion, and we made a point to the workers of Audi. So that was the positive side. We worked a lot of it. That's the positive side. But let's be honest, Audi is closed now. We also have to be honest. Audi is closed. And so how to cope with the factory that closes, it's a difficult question. We have not a solution because, okay, we're going to a socialist society and we want to take production. Because Audi will only be us in a socialist society, let's be clear. Audi shall not be us in a capitalist society under this condition. So that's the real debate we have to do. But meanwhile, educating people, okay, the industry is from us, it's us to decide, we have to be in control, is a kind of educating people towards who is a real wealth creating class in the world. That's why we do it. We also do it in the harbor in Antwerp. The port belongs to us. That's a slogan, proud to be a docker, the port belongs to us, they don't belong to the bosses, etc. It's an educational point. Because of course, at the end of the day, the power, the state power is not us, it is the capitalist power. So it's in creating this counterpower, that's the educational idea. But we have to be honest and clear also, at the end of the day, Audi was closed. It's a difficult question. We have, in capitalism, how to do it, it's a difficult question, I do think. Then on the Flemish-French question, we are one party. Our slogan is, we are one. En wij zijn één, nous sommes un. And at the beginning, when we were first in parliament, no journalists, because every other party, I have to say, in Belgium is split. There's a French Social Democratic Party and a Dutch. They almost don't talk with each other. There is a French Christian Democratic Party, and they don't work, they are really separate parties. And so we have many parties. It's crazy. And there's only one national organized party, and that's our party. And so the journalist said, but do you work together with the French? When I was president at that time, I said, no, we are the same party. And they couldn't believe, because there was
out of their comfort zone. You had to be split. No, they say, okay, we speak both languages. We are doing exactly the same. We have exactly the same leaflets. The only thing is we have to translate everything. It's a lot of work, but the positive side is on the working class, this sense of unity from the south and the north is very important. And like the Manifesta Festival, people coming together and they are proud to be in the only unified party. It's a stronghold. So in Belgium we have three things that's still together. There's the king, that's the Red Devil, the football team, and the PTB. That's the three things. So it's a proud thing. On the dock, automatization, that's a difficult, a more difficult question. On the one hand, the dock workers union in Antwerp is very strong. It had a strong position. And like when there was the liberalization of the port package 1 and port package 2 struggles, there was a lot of, and everyone is afraid of the dock workers, and rightly so, because if they march, no one stops them, so they have a kind of power. And the other side, they went since the beginning, like the Rotterdam harbor, the port of Rotterdam, it's automatized, etc. They wanted to do it in Antwerp, they stopped it since the beginning. They stopped this kind of Rotterdam automatization. The other side, to be quite honest, of the dock workers union in Antwerp is that it's rather corporatistic. And historically, I can relate to that because it comes from the Middle Ages and the corporate. It comes from a corporate to protect. And so you cannot become a docker. You have this dock worker. You have to be an official dock worker, etc. It's a very good thing, but they protect each other. It's a very strong, but it is corporatistic. Like, for example, in the general strike movement, they try to negotiate at themselves with the dock workers union some exception for the dock workers. And this government is giving him an exception. Like that, the dock workers are calm. So our problem in the dock workers is also that corporatism, and it's related with the question of Kyle, the fascist influence in the docks. It is really, really big. And we are growing, going back, our movements in the docks to organize is up and down. It's not a success story. It's really difficult to counter a fascist influence in the dock. There's very much racism also because because the system of the book, 99% is white working class people, etc. It's a difficult question, and we're struggling with it. And then related, Kyle, the first time the fascist party, the Vlaams Blok, was called to, it was 1991. And they had then in Antwerp 33%, already in 1991. And then lawyers, they get the Vlaams Blok before the justice, and the Justice Department, they prohibited the Vlaams Blok. It was forbidden on the basis of racism in Belgium. They changed their name in Vlaams Belang, and they continued. And we had a lot of discussions on that. And now they still have, in the Dutch-speaking part, they're the biggest party, almost 24% in the biggest party. And then they say, we will do it again. Our position as a party is we are not in favor. It's counterproductive. We are discussing this. No, the other thing we said after 91 was, we make a difference about the structure of the Vlaams Blok, which is fascists. We don't discuss with them. They're fascists. We fight them. But not everyone voting for the Vlaams Belang is a fascist. That was a big discussion. And we say, we're going to try to win some voters back from Vlaams Belang. And we have to stay in contact because they are enraged, etc. And there are many people in the docks, like they split their vote. It's crazy, but it's like that. They vote and for Vlaams Blok and for us. And some pity bourgeois people, they cannot understand how it's possible No, they have a rage and they don't see clear and they trust us and they trust... And so we have to keep this grudge and to now officially forbid this protest vote. It won't kill fascism. It won't kill it. There will be no juridical deus ex machina, no wonder middle to stop the fascists. It will not happen. I think. I do also think in France now they forbid the Rassemblement National of Marine Le Pen, but people will still continue to vote for them. And so maybe you can do it if they are at 3%, 5%, 10%, maybe then. But if they are in the range of 20 or 25%, I know it's also in Belgium. It's not a very popular point of view that I'm not, but I really think it will be counterproductive in the working class. We have to win politically. We have to win organizationally. We have to defeat them politically on the level. It's a long way. I know it's a long way. But this measure to forbid them and then the problem is gone. I don't think it will work. General strike, Rodrigo. Yeah. That's an advantage we have this tradition of general strike, and it was 3 years or 4 years ago. I didn't know it was not possible. They try to forbid it. The right wing is now saying it's a political strike. Whoa, you cannot do a political strike. And we are saying, and also most of the trade, yes, of course it's a political strike. It was a political measure working to 67 years. Now they are discussing to 68. That's a political measure. And our strike against this political measure is a political strike. So what? We have the right to strike against this. And yes, that's a more advantageous situation than the situation where it is forbidden. I don't know how you organize when the Bundestag take measures, social economic measures. How to organize the protest movement is much more difficult if you have not the right, and maybe the right to have a political strike and the right to have a general strike is an action point on itself that has to be put avant in the next 5 years. But it is a difference. And on the last question, I cannot read my self-confidence, capital. I forgot the question.
Like maybe if we're also about to build this self-confidence and class confidence with this frame, Industrie gehört uns. I remember a little bit, but maybe you can just close.
Yeah, okay, I will generally close. I really wanted to thank you all to stay to listen, and I'm really convinced. I'm really convinced that in the next, I'm going to a little bit repeat myself, but in the next 5 or 10 years, there will be opportunities to reconstruct, rebuild, etc. There will be a window of opportunity to do that. And so the optimism is not an optimism of very short time, because it's dark times. It's not an optimism of very short time, but it's an optimism of the class possibilities that there are. And I do think we come to my entry point. I do think if we talk in trade unions, if we talk in the neighborhoods, if we talk as a political party, as left-wing activists, etc., we have to bring also that kind of rebuilding hope. Not as a petit bourgeois slogan, but as a class point. I think it's the most important. There will be a lot of possibilities, and in the meantime, have honest discussion among yourselves about what's the strategy, the tactics. We can learn from each other. I learned a lot of things from German comrades, from DKP, from Die Linke, from trade unions, etc. I think the model has to be, we have to learn from each other, and we have to try to generalize the best practice. And if we can see what is specific for every country and what can be generalized, that's the most important thing. Steal everywhere. Steal from every good practice. There is no copyright, there's copyleft. Every good practice, every good practice in the trade union, in building up people's power from below, we have to steal from each other. And so thank you also to